left Malaga. Johannes is driving, the captain.
Aye, aye, sir.
Nettie, the navigator. Woo! And look at these views. So today we are going to Granada to see what we can see with a little amount of time we have. And then we will be heading over the mountain pass of the Sierra Nevada. We're going to do a 4-kilometer hike. Finally, we are going to end the day near Amaria in Cabo del Gato in the beaches there. Apparently they're really beautiful white sand beaches. And so that is what we're going to show you today with my friend Johannes and Nettie. We are on a road trip and we are east of Malaga, about 45 minutes, heading north to Granada. Alhambra Palace Hotel.
Alhambra.
We have arrived to Granada. And the Alhambra Palace is somewhere up there. But because of time, we're just gonna have a little lunch here and see what we can see in the immediate area.
And
before
entrance fee of 35 euros.
And we don't feel like spending 35 euros today, just because we don't have the time. And I'm sure it would be worth it, but it's just not possible today. So we will explore this neighborhood and see if we can get a view of the palace from outside, the Alhambra. And then we will go to Almeria y
Maria. And Cabo de Gato.
Cabo de Gato, yeah.
And Sierra Nevada.
Sierra Nevada y Cabo de Gato.
Yeah.
We just had lunch at this cute little overlook of the city. We're now behind that area and in the outskirts of the Alhambra. Like I said, we're not gonna go in, but we're just doing a little walkthrough where we have a few minutes here before we go to our next destination. And just catching some nice sights, a lot of greenery here. This is not typical of Andalusia to see this much green foliage. So if you do see green foliage, because there's water here, some source of water. And this is just a walkway that keeps going around the perimeter of the Alhambra that we're not going to enter.
No, wait, what's buried?
His burial site.
Burial site, right.
In Jerusalem.
Das ist burial site.
Historical background, and explaining the human evolution through the perspective of the Bible. Because a lot of stories were written much later.
Yeah?
They came from an oral tradition. They were like traded from generation to generation. And then
Only by word of mouth.
right.
Yes.
And then they wrote it down at some point, and they combined all the different stories of how the world was created in their perspective.
I think it's here, up here.
How
Yeah.
lifestyle from herding to agriculture changed, and it's so interesting because it shows that it's not like the Bible is not a divine work, but it's written by humans who describe their experiences
Sure.
with God and for instance just the Ark
Yeah.
of Noah.
Yep.
For instance, that's just a story explaining how people began to sail around on oceans. Like,
But then it evolved into something like a folklore, like
right, yeah.
sort of fabricated
like
and
to make a story.
Yeah.
Or Cain and Abel. That's a story of herding and agricultural cultures and traditions. Like at the beginning, people were herding. Then they were doing agriculture because they settled down and cities evolved. And then there's another story, I think, I think Abraham
Abraham and Sarah.
Abraham, for instance, it tells a story of people living in cities. They're not in villages and not in nomad tents anymore. They are beginning to live in cities. And so the Bible is like actually, it's a big story of humankind. It's not so much a description of truth, but it's more like a description of life.
Yeah,
how life evolved.
Uh-huh.
And that's really interesting because the authors, they don't say it's all about divination and divine intervention, but it's a story of people.
Sure.
It's really interesting.
So in that context, the Bible and the religious history really intrigues me to study it with that perspective.
Yeah, just there also, I don't know of any English books, but there's also a German book. It's called The Diary of Mankind, of Humankind.
Okay.
And it also explains the Bible through that perspective. And it makes it much more interesting to me. Because sometimes when I have a conversation with my dad, he says, every word of the Bible is true and it's just the way it is written. We have to stick to more or less the rules of the Old Testament. And then, if I say, but it's mostly about the history of humankind and of people and their mistakes in the Bible, stories repeat each other. For instance, that's also really interesting. In the Old Testament, they were talking about camels. Camels being used for transportation, but it is proven that at this point in history, there were no camels in those deserts.
Sure.
So it's like a retrospective. The story is told like thousands of years later, and at this point, the authors knew about camels. They had camels. So there's so many mistakes in the Bible because it does not tell scientific truth. It's about stories, impressions.
So that seems like a conscious way of learning about history that younger generations are starting to learn, is how to decipher science and history sort of together, and what was real, what wasn't real.
Yeah.
And a teacher, Johannes here in Central Germany, is someone who helps me understand that perspective among other people, and it's really interesting to hear his perspective with his background that is so different than mine, growing up in Germany and me from the United States, that I wouldn't have known had I not met him, for example, in the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire in 2012, 2013. So that's ultimately why I'm here with him and his lovely girlfriend Nettie, and that's why we are traveling together. So thank you, Professor.
Professore, I always give my best.
They also mix up the religion, the
Catholicism.
with the politics, and it's been hard because we are making like a step back and not going forward.
Yeah. And so what's the solution? You said, how do you study them separately?
Perspectives?
Yeah, like what do you have to, the first thing you learned in the university, you said about history?
Yeah, that was one of the first things, just not to mix up those perspectives. So, for instance, if you have a look at a church, that is my example, you can look through the religious perspective. Oh, that's a spiritual location. I feel close to God. It's very personal. But you can also look at it as a scientific. Oh, look how in the Middle Ages they used this technique, architectural technique, to build it up, to make it stronger. You can also have a look at it just arts. Oh, that's just a nice building. Is aesthetic, for instance. It's just to go have a look at it.
So
just for instance, if you have a look at a painting.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't really talk about the chemicals of the colors.
So basically,
you can do that, but you can also just look at it and it's just nice. I like to be here.
So you're saying you have to consciously separate them.
Right.
Yes.
If you mix that up, then it mostly comes to conflicts. For instance, crusades.
Yep.
Political ambitions.
Sure.
Mixed with religious fanatics. Pope Urban II just made Hall of Europe to invade Jerusalem.
And he excused it with religious reasons.
Yeah.
And that meant lots of people dying and tragedies and...
Yeah. And if you separated
nine
all
yards.
those perspectives, it's much easier, and you don't, for instance, have to say the Bible is wrong, the stories of creation are wrong, because it's not scientific. You can't create the world in 7 days. But if you just consider it as a story, a nice religious story, the authors just wanted to show, because they were in Babylonian exile, and they wanted to show our God Yahweh is stronger than Marduk, the god of the Babylonians. So it's basically a story to show the strength and creational power of God Yahweh. It's not a scientific report.
Okay.
But it gets really difficult if you consider it a scientific report.
Which-
Then you end up. Some Americans believe in like the creationists. They tell their children that everything is true in the Bible, and then you come into conflict, because then you say the evolution is incorrect. They could have happened, and then you get into a contrast between science and religion. If you separate them, you don't have that problem.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's a long educational process.
Sure.
To learn about it.
It's a lifelong journey for someone
Yeah.
who studies
Yeah.
like yourself.
I guess so, yeah.
And in the end, you have to decide in what you are believing.
For yourself.
Yes.
And at least we live in a time where we do have that right and choice to decide those things and
Yeah.
curiously study.
And we know about it. I mean,
Mhm.
people in the Middle Ages, they didn't know about those different perspectives.
Right.
Like politics, social life, religious life was all combined, and it was so hard to separate.
Yeah.
That is why the French Revolution, where church and state were separated, is also so important.
Mm-hmm.
Just to understand democracy and how we live today, you can't really think about it if you don't consider the French Revolution.
All right. Yeximash. All right, off to the mountains. Let's go to the mountains. Woohoo! Mountains, mountains.
Some goats in the mountains.